How's it flying, Blue Jays? Sean Blue here. I'm here to. I don't know if you can hear the heating. I just turned it off, so why it's a little cold. So hopefully it's not going to make too much of a noise. Okay, officially turned off. So, how's it flying, Blue Jays? I'm here to talk to you guys about a documentary that I saw a few years back called Nobody's Children. It's an Australian documentary that was made back in 1989, or at least that's when it came out. It was in 1989. I think they believe they filmed it throughout a couple of years back in the late 80s in Australia about homeless teenagers, runaways, kids that are, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, living on the streets. There's two parts of it. It's on YouTube. It still is, which where I first saw it. The first one is called No Place Like Home, which is part one, and the part two is Making It Work. And both of those parts are very good. It took me like about 2 days to watch them both. I saw like the first part, then like the next day I saw the second part. Both of them very good. The first part it talked about, well, it talked on both parts. It talked about like cause homeless kids and how they became homeless in the first place. Kids have drug problems. Kids ran away from very abusive homes. Some of these kids have like some very messed up stories. Um, they interviewed despicable pimps in it. So there was this one pimp who's so freaking disgusting, and I believe he was in part two. And yeah, he was so freaking despicable. Then also in part two, they also talked about like the school system and how some kids are falling behind, and it's kind of like hard to teach all these different types of kids with all these different types of learning disabilities. But also with part one, it just talks, and part two, it just talks about kids sharing their stories about like how there was this one boy that used to get tied up in the shed and hit by his stepdad, and and he's doing okay now. He's actually working at a grocery store that they showed in the documentary way back then. I'd like to know what happened to a lot of these kids and where they are today. They're older people now. I was like a little baby when this came out in 1989. I was two. So I'd like to know what happened to these kids that were like 16, 17 at the time, where they are now and how they're doing. And yeah, there was this one kid who like those like those like little boxes that you donate like clothes to, and you put in like those like little metal boxes. There was a kid that would climb inside one of those while it gets so cold at nights, and he would sleep inside the little those clothes boxes that you donate clothes to. Yeah, he would climb inside there and sleep in there. And just like so many different types of kids with so many different types of fascinating stories and sad stories. I remember there was like this chunky house that these kids are staying in, and there was like apparently needles on the ground, so you have to watch out where you're stepping. And even if you're wearing shoes, the needles can still penetrate the soles of your shoes. So yeah, very fascinating, and yeah, and just all the horror stories of living on the streets with kids prostituting themselves and all kinds of horrible stuff like that. And kind of like different type of like groups of kids, like there was like the headbangers. I guess those were kind of like heavy metal type kids, and I think there was kind of like punk rock kids. It was really just fascinating, all the different types of kids. So please go check out the documentary Nobody's Children. But just to give you a heads up, it is a pretty heavy documentary, but a very good one, and has a very important message. And I know that there's kids still out there today, not only in Australia but in this country right now, that are going through the same type of tough things that, and society really needs to help them out. So all right, peace out, guys.